You've heard it before. Draft like you're right. What does that really mean? Does that mean you only take two quarterbacks in a best ball fantasy football draft? Does that mean that you draft as if none of your players get injured? I sort of think it is interesting philosophically. So that is what we are going to do today when we hop into a best ball mania draft over on Underdog Fantasy. We are drafting out of the 11 hole, and we are going to do our best to say we're going to draft like we're right. With every selection, we are going to say, okay, what happens if we're right? Let's logically follow the tree from there. For example, so we are about to pick here at pick 11, and let's say that we select Nico Collins, or let's say that we select Puka Nacua. Let's say we select Amon-Ra St. Brown. What does that mean? How do we use that selection to inform the rest of our strategy? We have won, or we are theoretically going to be winning $2 million because every pick that we make is correct. And let's see if we're able to learn anything from this exercise. We are up on the clock very quickly. I guess we are going to select Puka Nacua. The first thing that we're going to assume that we're right about, this Matthew Stafford back injury, it's fine. Guys, it's fine. There's nothing going on there. And even if it wasn't fine, we're totally comfortable with Jimmy Garoppolo throwing Devontae Adams the ball and Puka Nacua the ball. Do I really believe that? I mean, I don't know if I really believe that. I think that it is probably pretty close. And then we are going to just go ahead and select Devon Achane with this pick. What if Devon Achane is able to be as efficient as he was as a rookie, and he also was able to catch as many passes as he did in the second year of his NFL? That means that basically we're looking at the second coming of Jamal Charles, which I actually do feel pretty confident in saying we are right about. So there we go. We've started our draft where we're right about everything with Puka Nacua and Devon Achane. Let's see where it takes us. So obviously one of the interesting things that could have happened here, Mike Evans actually went way ahead of ADP. He went at pick 29 here, would have been Achane and Evans as an obvious correlation. What would we be right about? Well, we'd be right that the week 17 game between Tampa Bay and Miami was one of the highest scoring games. As it stands right now, I think we just clearly... I'm going to pick Xavier Worthy here, and I'm going to pick Xavier Worthy ahead of ADP. Obviously, one of the things of being... What am I right about? Well, theoretically, I really should be right that Xavier Worthy is able to earn targets at an above average NFL level. I should be correct that Patrick Mahomes plays at a near MVP level and puts up MVP level statistics. And we are also making a claim that, guess what? Devon Achane is just going to be a running back one. We don't need to sweat. It's totally fine. We're going to select George Pickens here. I have George Pickens ranked, I was about to say way ahead of ADP. Honestly, not way ahead of ADP. Actually, about a round ahead of where he was going for the majority of Best Ball Mania. But we add Worthy, we add Pickens. They do both have week 10 buys. That's, kind of in part saying, guess what? These dudes are just going to be the guys that you need in fantasy football this year. I'll give the rest of my pod a buy in week 10. I don't even care. Puka Nacua, Devon Achane, Xavier Worthy, and George Pickens as a nice little beginning to our what if we were right about everything fantasy team. So structurally, I think a lot of the times you do want to be taking a running back here at the 59th pick overall. I, however, am going to go in a slightly different direction. I'm going to take Ricky Pearsall with this pick. Davis, why would you take Ricky Pearsall there? Well, I'm already right about Devon Achane, right? And I like Ricky Pearsall a little bit better in kind of just, honestly, I think Ricky Pearsall, you guys watched the video from last week, and I think there's a real chance that he is a league-winning player. I also definitely want to have the option to select Purdy. Alternatively, I had a pretty good feeling I was going to be able to get one of RJ Harvey or Alvin Kamara with my next pick. I was able to do so. I feel very good about RJ Harvey. I am not buying Benjamin Albright's story that J.K. Dobbins, quote unquote, could not find his helmet. So we now have two stud efficiency running backs in Devon Achane and RJ Harvey. We have an unbelievably talented wide receiver room with Puka Nacua, Xavier Worthy, George Pickens, and Ricky Pearsall. Some yards per route run all-stars there and some not so great yards per route run guys there. But that kind of lends to what I'm saying, right? I'm saying that I don't actually care that much about Ricky Pearsall or Xavier Worthy's poor yards per run last year because there were extenuating circumstances for Worthy. There were extenuating circumstances for Pearsall, namely the dude literally did get shot, which is what drafting like you're right is all about. It's saying this is the context that needs to be applied to this situation that only I, the unique drafter, can understand. All right, we are about to be back up here at pick 83 and 86. I would have loved to have taken Patrick Mahomes on this team, but we might be provided with an even more interesting example depending on what this drafter directly to my left does, because I would love to select Caleb Johnson because I'm pretty certain that my talent evaluation of Caleb Johnson was correct. We are able to select Caleb Johnson all the way down at pick 83. I thought Caleb Johnson was one of the more talented running backs in the 2025 NFL class. Honestly, my mental evaluation was he might be a little bit better than Quinshon Judkins, a little bit less dynamic, but also a little bit more powerful. Everyone is scared about him because of Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, he did not run that well in their preseason game, but frankly, I don't really care. And now I'm able to select Jaden Higgins here as well. That gives us CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, and Matt Stafford, all as quarterbacks available. The Jaden Higgins selection, I mean, is that me being particularly right about anything? I wouldn't necessarily say so. It is a little bit of a unique combination on that side of the board. That Caleb Johnson value to me seems a little bit outrageous. He's going within 6 picks of Jaylen Warren. Look, all due respect to Jaylen Warren, guy's been in the NFL. This is now his 4th season. I think if it was going to have happened for Jaylen Warren, it probably would have. Maybe he starts the year, quote unquote, as the starter. But I feel better than the market does about Caleb Johnson. A couple interesting observations here. Rashid Shaheed goes at 104. I would have really liked to have taken him with one of these turn picks. We're just definitely going to be selecting Dak Prescott with this next pick. Draft like you're right. Okay, draft like we were right to take George Pickens well ahead of average draft position. We definitely are putting ourselves in a position to select a commander, whether it be Ertz, whether it be Eckler, whether it be Noah Brown, really setting up at that game. I would have loved to have gotten Bo Nix. Not that he ever really gets to 110. I've noticed that Bo Nix falls in slow drafts for whatever reason. I would love to take Marvin Mims or Keon Coleman. You know what? Actually, let's talk about drafting like you're freaking right. Let's take Colston Loveland and let's set this up to only be a 2 tight end team. That's drafting like you're right. A top 10 pick in the NFL draft available at pick 110. Sounds like Luther Burden is maybe headed towards more of a red shirt season than people like me, the Luther Burden truthers, believed. I take him over Evan Ingram, a proven NFL veteran. You could argue maybe that's a little bit more of going full slappy as opposed to drafting like you're right. But now with Puka Nacua, Devin Achane, Xavier Worthy, George Pickens, Ricky Pearsall, RJ Harvey, Caleb Johnson, Jaden Higgins, and Dak Prescott with Colston Loveland, we have the bones of a really strong team. 5 wide receivers, 3 running backs, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end. That is, in my mind, sort of the perfect best ball fantasy football structure. And I think we are building a what do you win when you win shipper right now. All right, we are in a little bit of a trickier spot. This is sort of a no man's land when you have a 1-3-5-1 build. We could certainly just take Jake Ferguson here. Honestly, I don't love it. Actually, you know what? I would rather take Jaden Blue. We're going to add on to that Dak Prescott stack. I think that getting the high upside running back is more valuable, and this might be a good team to take my boy Harold Fannin Jr. I also am going to select. Let's do, you know what? All right, let's just take Jake. I honestly, I kind of couldn't really decide what I wanted to do there. I think positionally, Jake Ferguson makes sense. We can be done. And I in my head, what I was trying to process there was, are there any of these wide receivers that I really believe in? Are any of these wide receivers in the queue? Josh Palmer, Trey Harris, Mario Douglas, Hollywood Brown, Romeo Doubs, Cedric Tillman. Any of these guys that I believe in, do I want to put my name as like, okay, if I'm right about how the 2025 NFL season goes, are any of these players going to be affected? And I think the answer is clearly no. Honestly, like they were all sort of fine. Getting snapped off on Shaheed at pick 104 was a little bit brutal, but we are feeling good about this team. I think I'm heading in the right direction. I do definitely need to get Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt on this team though. So we're definitely in the range for a second quarterback here. We did miss out on all the guys that we wanted. However, you guys are seeing, I'm getting put to the test right now. And you know what? I'm just taking him. I'm taking him ahead of ADP too. I saw our boy John Run from the Badge Brothers get a literal last round Matt Stafford earlier today. So Davis, what are you doing? Why would you spend a 13th round pick on Matthew Stafford? Because the thing insists upon itself, and we are easily going to select Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt here for our bring back. When you have made the decision to take one Mr. Puka Nacua in the first round. You have put so much weight on the back of that selection. Like if you were thinking about each draft slot in terms of dollars, I've heard a lot of this analysis, right? Of okay, well, Jimmy Garoppolo, like maybe, I don't know, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to help Puka Nacua earn first round value. He just isn't good enough. This is a guy who could not hack it with the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a guy, the league is desperate, is starved. Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler are starting for the New Orleans Saints. Tyrod Taylor is the backup for Justin Fields. So like the desire and the need for quarterback is higher than it's ever been. And everyone has decided that Jimmy Garoppolo can't hack it. So we are adding in Matt Stafford as our second quarterback. I do reserve the right to take a third quarterback, though. Not necessarily that I'm drafting like I'm wrong or I'm right, but I do reserve the right in this specific contest and this context to take a third if I want. A lot of different ways that this 179 and 182 overall pick could go. I'm leaning wide receiver. And I'm actually done on this draft taking, bad players that I don't want to take. I'm not going to take Pat Bryant. I'm not going to take De'Ami Brown. I'm taking Jalen Noel, a young, incredibly explosive player. I've got him as teammates with Jaden Higgins on this team. And I like that bet a lot because it is a direct bet against Christian Kirk and Dalton Schultz, which I really like to do. And now at running back, I'm taking Keaton Mitchell, another guy who I frankly feel overjoyed to select. There's another thing going on here with drafting like you're right, which is, well, guess what? Part of drafting like you're right is getting the player values correct. I don't care if Keaton Mitchell, if a lot of teams had him in the 18th round. I don't care if he was undrafted for the first, 10, 20% of the contest. The fact is that the price of the brick with Keaton Mitchell went up after their week 1 preseason game, but it was also probably evidence that it was too low to begin with. Like, what is the difference between Keaton Mitchell and Tyler Algier? They are both handcuffs for top 10 fantasy football running backs. Sure, Tyler Algier doesn't have to deal with Justice Hill, but Derrick Henry doesn't really have to deal with Justice Hill. They more or less play different positions in the same offense for the Baltimore Ravens. I'm happy to take Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt at 158, and I'm happy to take Keaton Mitchell at 182 because I'm drafting like I know ball, because I do know ball. Final 2 picks, the most draft like you're right picks in all of fantasy football. Our roster perfectly balanced. We have a 2-6-6-2 with Dak and Stafford as our quarterbacks. We have Colston Loveland and Jake Ferguson as our tight ends. Absolutely no positional issues here. I think we should definitely take a slappy wide receiver, Isaac TeSlaa. You want to talk about a sleeper? The defensive linemen for the Detroit Lions are talking about how good Mr. Isaac TeSlaa is. They are absolutely jacked for him. We are also going to select a running back here. And we are going to take Blake Corum. And I'll tell you why we're going to take Blake Corum. This is one of my big galaxy brain theories. But anytime the starting running back for a team gets injured, in this case, it would be Kyron Williams. Generally speaking, we do see a boost to the raw number of pass attempts. Maybe not necessarily passing efficiency. That does not always work out, as you can certainly see with some teams. But think about, the Ravens without Derrick Henry, the Packers without Josh Jacobs. So I like the correlation between top passing option, quarterback, and then the backup running back. And I think we saw in week 1, that Blake Corum is certainly the backup running back for the Los Angeles Rams. So there you have it, folks. Draft like you're right. Go into the draft room and say, when I take Colston Loveland at 110, I don't need Juwan Johnson. I don't need Harold Fannin Jr. When I take Jaden Higgins, I can keep building in upside. I can take Isaac TeSlaa. I don't need De'Ami Brown. I don't need Noah Brown. When I take Caleb Johnson, that doesn't mean that all the rest of my picks have to be Justice Hill and Austin Eckler and a bunch of chaperones. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for daily fantasy football videos. And I'll be back with all of you guys tomorrow.